The following video is brought to you by iSIMS.
I just love technology, right? All of you enjoy technology, which is why you're sitting in this room trying to learn, trying to educate yourself, trying to become better acquainted around what are we doing, why are we doing it? My goal today is to really help connect the dots. I'm not creating a product here. Cloud recruiting is not a new ATS. I'm just helping to create a greater awareness around what it is that's going on in technology today and how it actually impacts us. My passion around technology, I would say, is kind of really deeply rooted in this one quote by Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes I'm so behind in terms of what's going on in technology. And I think that's part of the issue is that this massive proliferation of web applications that are available to us is just completely overwhelming. So what are the challenges of Web 2.0? So I'm sure most of you will agree. When you're online, you're going to be distracted. It's called Web 2.0 ADD, if you will, right? The short attention span theater, right? What's going on is that because we're so overwhelmed, we don't take the time anymore to read blogs to the extent that we did 3 years ago. Basically today, people are consuming information in small bits, in chunks, right? In small bits. They choose how they want it, when they want it. It's called micromedia. This concept of these snackable bites of information, it's impacting all of us. And what that means is that it's no longer you can capture their attention. If you think that you're going to just use one particular platform to go out there and find your candidates, I'm here to tell you, you need to think again. The generation that's maturing, actually they're evolving in their sophistication, but they're gravitating in terms of how can I consume this information? They don't want to sit through an hour-long session like you all are, right? They may just want a quick 5-minute or 3-minute or 2-minute or 1 or 30-second video around why you, why your company. There's so much being said about social media and the impact on us as recruiters. Why the impact on us as recruiters? Because we don't just go out there and source for candidates, we're branding. So many people are trying to define what social media is, but if you ask the industry experts in the social media space, the bottom line is it's about engaging the discussion. So what that means is you've got to participate to be part of the discussion. If you don't engage, then what you're essentially doing is you're opting out and allowing the population to define who you are and who your company is all about. A lot of the information that I've learned throughout the years, and even most recently, I've been through people I followed in the social media space that have alerted me to some really cool things that none of us probably really thought about. How do we use it for recruiting? But in the technology world, they're talking about it. We are so focused on following other recruiters that, again, we're missing the boat. So my philosophy is that, for what it's worth, I like to follow people that are actually outside of recruiting because the idea is we want to learn about things that are going on around us and see if we can apply it inside recruiting. If all we're doing is just following recruiters, we're nothing more than an echo chamber. Doing the same thing, we're not getting ahead. What's happening is that the way the technology is moving, it's causing us to think differently about how we actually leverage technology. You need to think in terms of not necessarily just this idea of just kind of going out there and aimlessly trying to use these resources, but think about why you're doing it and what the value you're getting out of it is. It's time that we actually start thinking about kind of revisiting our game plan. I mean, we talk about strategy all the time in recruiting. We talk about process. We talk about ATS. But with this whole movement in the technology world, I mean, is anyone really talking about how we actually leverage this whole thing called Web 2.0? And, okay, forget about Web 2.0. What about Web 3.0, okay? So, I mean, there's so much going on, so what are we doing? So the cloud is absolutely changing our world. So let's move into this discussion around the cloud. Recruiting has moved to the cloud, okay? In many cases, if you look at some of the other folks that aren't sitting in this room, they're fighting technology, believe it or not. You've heard of companies saying, no, I don't want to open the door to allow my employees to do X, Y, Z because I believe it's going to be counterproductive. It might be, but it's more of a risk that they don't do it than do it. Computing is turning into a utility, and once again, the economic equations that determine the way we work and live are being rewritten. Cloud computing essentially is the ability to access information on demand from virtually any device. I mean, it's that simple. That's the idea, is that as recruiting professionals, when you're on the go, you've got a meeting with the client, and that client calls you up, and they say to you, oh, we're very interested in this candidate, and you're out of the office already, and you can't boot up your laptop, you don't have connectivity, what do you do, right? Again, the idea of leveraging cloud technology means that you never have to skip a beat, right? My mobile device is synced to my personal computers and also synced to my work laptop. So if my hiring manager or my manager calls me and says, hey, Michael, I need that report, and oh, by the way, I need it in 10 minutes, I don't have to work frantically at trying to figure out how I get connectivity. I pull up my mobile, select my specific device, pull up that document. It can be any document, PowerPoint, PDF, Excel, and send it off on my mobile. Okay, that's the idea of the cloud. You should be able, theoretically, to access information anytime, anywhere. Last year alone, 2.4 billion mobile phones, 2.4 billion sold worldwide. So many people forget. The mobile phone is not just your phone, but it's your extension. It's the extension of your laptop, your computer, your desktop. 2.4 billion mobile devices sold just last year alone. I mean, think about that. So if we're waiting for that person to magically buy a computer so we can access their information and connect with them, then we're missing out on this other opportunity here because everybody's carrying a mobile device these days, right? 90% of the text messages are read by recipients. So that's actually really interesting. So those of you that are sitting in this audience right now, you could probably, if somebody sends you a text message, you'll probably just take a quick glance at it. But a lot of you don't have your laptops with you, right? So that's the point. The candidates that you're reaching out to aren't always going to be able to check their email. And the candidates can't always check their voicemail, but what can they do? They can pull up their mobile device. If it vibrates, they can take a look and say, oh, I've got a message, right? So this is a medium and a platform that we're not really tapping into. So my question is, could text messaging become a viable recruitment channel? I believe absolutely yes. Even if it's as simple as, hey, just wanted to remind you, because a lot of times I'm reaching out to people, they never answer their phone. So my next course of action is I'm going to text them. Just a reminder, your text screen today is at 2 p.m. Eastern. That ensures that they get it. So if they're in a meeting with their manager, in a conference or what have you, they can't check their email, they can see it. I thought this was actually a fitting quote here by Marshall McLuhan. Our age of anxiety is actually in great part the result of trying to do today's job with yesterday's tools. And I think a lot of times that's what we're actually doing. We're using a lot of the tools that were cool a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, but is it really relevant today? None of you have to agree or like what I'm talking about, but whether you like it or not, the technology is already moving there. I'm not inventing it. I'm just bringing the awareness, right? So the technology is there. You decide how you leverage it, and you decide whether it makes sense for you, and that's the key here. So the bottom line is cloud equals freedom. That's what all of this means. If you remember nothing else, remember cloud equals freedom.